Hello, here Clix Land. Welcome to Talkn Clix. As always, I am your host, Wes Harrison, aka Westpool. Today we have a special guest from the community, known as the fastest judge in the West, Anthony Barnstable. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic today. I'm happy to be here.
All right. So I posted some to the community that I was going to talk to you tonight, and the community responded with a number of questions. So we'll get started with that. Call it the community questionnaire. Adam Lajowski asks, "How did you become the fastest judge in the West?"
I mean, as fun as like the memes and jokes about it have become, that I am the fastest and whatnot. Really, the lame, honest answer is just I put in the effort. Um, I One of the things that always frustrated me as a player when I was a player was I would make a judge call, raise my hand, ask for a judge to come over, and I would get like I would see the judge slowly get up from their chair and slowly meander their way across the room over to me, and it was just agonizing as I'm like feeling the minutes burn by on the clock
Yeah.
waiting for them to say like yes, I can use charge and flurry together, because my opponent wasn't sure. um and so it's just one of those things of like, as a player, I always wanted a judge who would, for me it was just a matter of, um then it made me as a player want somebody who puts a little hustle in their step and just tries to get there in a timely manner and understands the urgency of these players are on the clock and they only have so much time, and the more of that time is their game, the more fun they have. So I just put in the effort of saying like, well, I'm just going to run and try and get to them as fast as I can to help them out. um, and really, I believe any judge could do it if they just tried.
Well, you might have PJ hot on your heels when he was at Red, White, and Clicks last November. I forget what his step count was, but it was astronomical. So he did a great job by himself that day. Adam also asked, "I
Oh,
don't."
he's a phenomenal
Oh,
judge.
he's fantastic. I love him. Adam also asks, "I don't think I have ever seen you play an actual game of HeroClix. Do you play or you just judge?"
So yeah, for me, HeroClix, I started playing HeroClix in 2005. I actively was a player in all of the major events from 2005. My first event was Gen Con 2005, or I guess like first big event. Before that, it was just a local store event a couple months before that. I went to like all the major like Wizard Worlds and Gen Cons and Origins and things up until 2014. Nationals 2014 at Origins was my last big event as a player. And then since then, Gen Con 2014, I've been an active judge at all the big events. For me, HeroClix is my favorite game of all time that I have ever played.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I love judging HeroClix even more than playing. So, I mean, obviously, I can't do both. I can only do one or the other. So, if I get the offer to judge, I'm going to take it every time. Um, but it's still my favorite game to play, and I still love playing HeroClix. It's just hard if I also get the offer to judge.
Okay. And then Mike Houghton asks, "How do you maintain your positive attitude and energy during those long, stressful con days?"
For me, definitely like one of my all-time favorite quotes ever is Parks and Recreations episode 1, Leslie Knope. When I hear people screaming, I just hear them being passionate loudly. And that's the way I always approach HeroClix of like, these players aren't mad at me. They're not necessarily mad. They're just being passionate loudly because of how much they care about what they're enjoying here. And for me, like those conventions, those fill me with energy. Um, I like when I'm in the con in the room, like it just fills me with adrenaline. So I can just keep on going and going and going and running and thinking and talking. And it doesn't hit me that I have done all of this hard work until the end of the night when everything's done and I go back to my hotel room and then it's like, oh, and now my body feels what I just
Yeah,
did
then you
today.
crash, right?
Right. And then the next morning, as soon as everybody's back in there, it's like, and now the adrenaline's going and I'm good to go. So it's, yeah, it's just easy for me with all of that excitement and passion.
Emilio Gutierrez asks, "What are the rudest and most polite ways to call a judge over?"
Yeah, that one was a little bit harder of a question as I was reading that one and thinking about it. Most like the way I will be the happiest with and I will always enjoy the most is a nice loud judge, raise hand in the air, keep hand in the air until the judge is there. Because then, like, I have heard help is needed, I can visually see where help is needed, and I have until the time I get there to continue to like reconfirm where I need to go. So that's the most helpful. And I will always like thank players when I get there if it's like, thank you for the hand. Thank you for the loud judge call. That made it easy. Rudest way was definitely one of the hardest questions. I had to really think about it. I guess I'd say like I'm not as big of a fan if I hear somebody call like Anthony or Barnstable and like are specifically like you have picked the judge you want, because it's like no, you should be open to any judge from the available staff because we should all be equals here in this situation. So keeping it more generic with just like the judge, I prefer a little bit. I mean, I get it, especially if it's like, oh, I'm like not that far away from you, or like you see the other judges are in the middle of stuff. Like, I get it. I'm not going to actually be upset if somebody's like, Barnstable. Then it's like, oh, that was so rude of them. It's just like, I'd prefer if you said judge, but that's such a minor nitpick. I can't actually, like, maybe if you're like, hey, jerk, get over here, then that would be rude. But
Right.
really, there isn't an overly rude way to call for a judge. Um,
Then the follow up was,
His follow up was yeah, if you could eliminate or minimally change one rule to reduce confusion, increase simplicity and understanding um, of the game, what would it be? And that one's also a hard choice because, like, okay, I can only pick one. There's so many that I could potentially choose from of things where I would love to help out. Um, so I feel like multi-base movement is something like from a rules standpoint, I'm very passionate about it. And I've recently come to learn that it is still worded in a way that's a little bit more confusing to the average player than it could be. So that would be one where, like, the goal wouldn't even be change how it works, just changing the phrasing or maybe like including an example or something to just try and help make it a little bit more clear to everybody.
okay. I apologize for the background noise. My wife decided to start vacuuming all of a sudden. So I don't know if that's being picked up on the mic,
No
but
worries.
kind of rude. Aaron Morgan asks, if you were able to pull it off, would you do a BR while drinking around the world at Epcot?
I mean, yes and no. No, because I don't drink alcohol really. I don't even really drink caffeine, like outside of maybe an occasional cup of black tea or like a hot chocolate. So as long as it could be like non-alcoholic drinks around the world, which they have great ones at Epcot, then yeah, sure. Any excuse to play more HeroClix sounds fantastic and fun to me.
Then McConnell Lamar had a series of questions. First one is, what are three things you think players could be doing better to grow the game?
Uh, Number one is talking to more people at your venue that you see are like coming into your venue to play other games, or I guess it depends on the context of your venue. If it's a comic book shop, more like on New Comic Book Day when people are buying comic books and you are too, talk to them about like, hey, if you love Superman, there's this great new game you could play. Well, not even new, but this great game you could play where you get to play with Superman. Or it's a gaming shop, like especially going in on like the Warhammer night or War Machine night, the minis games nights, or the Marvel Crisis Protocol nights, and like, hey, I know you guys enjoy this game. If you want to see another game that has similarities to it and a slightly different feel, check out this one. Basically, especially, and then on nights that HeroClix are happening, trying to engage with people that are walking by in the store of like, hey, check this out. Doesn't this look fun on the table? Would you like to sit down and learn? Um, and trying to spread it through just word of mouth with the people that are already coming in your shop and already have similar interests. That would be the first one. The second one is please, please, please don't gatekeep the game. Sorry, that's my cats deciding they want to have a fun playtime, or overly not the nicest fun at the second. But please don't gatekeep the game. When somebody new comes to the game, remember, like, they don't know all of these answers yet. And yeah, they're going to ask a question that feels stupid and obvious to you, but there was a time and place where it wasn't like
Right.
stupid to you or obvious to you, and you had to learn it too. Like, I remember the day I read the rule book and I was sitting down to play the game for myself at home before I ever went into a store, and I completely misread how range combat works. And I thought, like, oh, three lightning bolts, I get to make three ranged attacks with this dude. That's so much fun. So there, everybody has that moment of learning, because it's a thick rule book. There's a lot to it. And just be understanding and open to help teach them and show them what they don't know. And that everybody comes from a different background of like how they even read and understand material. Um, and then like number three is like just be kind and respectful. It helps grow the game and grow the community more than you think, because like one of my favorite things about this community and this game is how nice everybody is. And we are one of like the only communities I have seen with like the mooching house, the like area where people can go to ask and lend and borrow, like, hey, I'm going to this big event and I don't own a single piece that I want to play, can you guys help me make this happen?
Yeah.
And people will do it. Like, that would be unheard of in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh happening.
Uh, you're talking about
So I'm not
the
saying that's what a player has to do, but just being nice.
yeah. You were talking about the venues.
uh,
I've reached out to all the game stores and comic book stores within like 30 miles of here, and have said, hey, if you ever get somebody in here that uh, mentions HeroClix or asks about HeroClix, here's my contact information. And I actually have recruited a few players that way. They went to another store that I don't attend, but the one of the owners says, "Hey, Wes plays HeroClix," because they came in asking for HeroClix. So we don't sell them here, but call Wes. He plays it, and now they play with me every week. So it's
nice.
so
That's
not, you know, just
fantastic.
reach out to the even if the stores don't sell HeroClix, but they deal with superheroes and games. Uh, Somebody comes in randomly, say, "Hey, go call Anthony. He'll tell you about HeroClix." Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and McCall also asks, "What are three things you think WizKids could be doing better to grow the game?"
I mean, I think right now WizKids is actively taking a very positive direction, and I'm really happy with the direction that things are headed in. Um, I feel like I'm hearing it from the community as well, that like some of the steps that they're taking are definitely steps in the right direction. And I'm happy with those. And I feel like they could take some of those further, like some of the videos that I've been seeing about like HeroClix Learn to Play uh, that are coming out. I think those are excellent and great, and maybe take it a step further and advertise HeroClix a little bit more, like a comic book ad. Like, that would be awesome to see, like in a Marvel or DC, even indie comics, like maybe not necessarily ones that we have clicks of right now, but just an ad in general about like, hey, you're reading about these types of characters, come play a game with these types of characters. That would be really awesome to see. Um, I guess a second one would be, I've really really loved the fan surveys that we've been seeing and that we've been getting. I think we've gotten like a total of four or five now. since they've started those, and I'd just love to continue to see more and more of those, and expanding and doing more topics that they could be asking the community about, because like, I mean, I'm sure they have great market research and analytics in terms of how they do all of that type of stuff for some of the big decisions that they're making, but I think, like, is sometimes you can get some really valuable insight just from asking the community and the players. And I'd love to see more of that continue and expand. And I think there's a lot of cool opportunity that they could do with it. Um, and then the third one, I really have loved the expansion of events that WizKids has been at, representing HeroClix, and getting people exposure to HeroClix. I think there's some room for that to continue expanding. I think didn't expect it, but ultimately I think Adepticon was one of, like, the best conventions for HeroClix that I have encountered, because it turns out HeroClix at its core is a miniature skirmish game, and Adepticon is a miniatures gaming convention. So potentially expanding HeroClix at more miniatures gaming conventions, specifically like Nova Open, like Las Vegas Open, like Lone Star Open, um, like those types of conventions where their focus is miniatures war games,
Mhm.
and where players are coming in like, yeah, I already get the gist of a miniature skirmish game. Tell me what makes this game specific and unique. Because at those learn to plays at Adepticon, we would get like 20 minutes into the demo, and people are already pulling out the powers and abilities card they see sitting on the table, and it's like, explain to me a little bit more about this charge and flurry and about my stealth, and wanting to already delve into that level of depth like 20 minutes into hearing about this game.
Right.
So I think that that's a great audience to tap into. Those are people that are easy sells, I think.
What are you looking forward to the most at the World Championship in Memphis this year?
I mean, there's still so much we don't know. Like, uh, are we even sure what exactly is going to be the newest set releasing at that point in time? Maybe that'll be exciting. That kind of also tells us what types of previews that we might be expecting there. Um, what types of events we're going to see there, because, like, um, maybe we'll see some silver there. I don't know. But that could be something potentially to be excited and looking forward to. I guess I would say probably the fan appreciation night is the one that, like, I can reliably. I'm expecting that that's going to be there, and I feel like that's just so exciting to see. Um, what did WizKids take away from the community over this past year, and say this is what they want us to share with them, the community, WizKids sharing with the community, in terms of um, what is going to make the community the happiest and build that trust and bond together with each other. And I'm most excited for that, I think.
Cool. Um, Other than judging events and answering rules questions, how do you stay active in HeroClix? Home games, local tournaments.
So, yeah, I haven't actually had a local tournament that I've gone to basically since COVID. My local game store was Games Plus in Mount Prospect, Illinois. COVID kind of killed our HeroClix scene, and it just hasn't quite recovered since then.
Yeah.
Um, and I haven't really personally just put in the time and effort to finding a new venue, because that's a lot of work to find a new place to play and a new community to be a part of. So some of that is laziness on my part, and I now have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So those are also post-COVID changes that made it like, oh, that'd be a little stressful to try and think about having to do all that on top of that right now. So some of that is a bit of laziness on my part. But really, what I do to stay active with HeroClix is every single day I am trying to look for rules questions, look for rules interactions, talking to players, talking to people in the community, to find new rules interactions. I enjoy that. That is, like, to me, that is my hobby and my passion and what I do for fun in my free time, to like de-stress and relax and have a good time. And then also just like talking about what else could be better or different. How could I do something different as a judge? How could I do something different as somebody who's playing a role in the organization of a tournament, like with Champion Clix Open in this past year? Where are the rooms for growth that I can contribute to, or where are the rooms for growth that I see that maybe I could take steps to finding out who's responsible for that and pass it on to them and try and make something positive happen.
Right.
And that's how I stay active is, I guess, more of that type of stuff and analysis. And I find it fun and I love it.
Great. I don't know how much the microphone's picking up, but I have two bulldogs laying next to me. One of them just had surgery, so he's snoring extra loud. So if you're picking up that snorting noise, that's my bulldog.
No.
Okay. Dennis.
No, I didn't hear that at all.
Okay. Well, it's very distracting for me. He's like right next to me. Dennis
Ah, okay.
Pelopin asks, "What powers combine with other powers?"
That's such a vague question
Yeah.
and it's a little complicated. I mean like the easy ones are like charge and flurry, or like running shot and energy explosion or pulse wave, and precision strike combines with pretty much any time you're making an attack with any other power like charge or flurry or running shot or energy explosion. And like penetrating psychic blast is like anytime you're making a ranged attack, so it's gonna combine with with your running shot as a nice easy example. And like your exploit weakness is going to combine with your charge or your flurry. And your steal energy is like any of your close attacks, so it's going to combine with those same types of things. Or when you're using super strength to make your object attack. Um, and your battle fury is going to stack into that because it's going to prevent them from using your shape change while you're making those attacks with your object with super strength or whatever. So that one's kind of vague, and there are like so many power combinations. And then if you want to add in special powers, it gets even more complicated. So that one feels like maybe I should go reach out to Dennis and have a more one-on-one conversation with him. But the answer is a lot of them.
Yeah. Uh, hypersonic speed always trips me up because there's a lot of things that combine with running shot that don't combine with hypersonic
Yeah,
speed. So that one I always have to like okay
that's fair.
really take the wording apart and break it down so I don't screw it up. Brad
Fair enough.
Broyles, the king of the online hero clicks, asks, "Why do you care about hero clicks?"
Why do I care about HeroClix? For me, I just find it to be a fun game to play and to judge and to interact with in every possible way. I guess for me, like the thing that made me ultimately fall in love with HeroClix from the beginning, I love that dial system, the dynamic nature that the combat values are changing for each of the pieces as the game is progressing, as damage is happening. Um, because like other games like Warhammer, your minis have like basically the same stats the whole time they're alive.
Hmm.
Um, or like the D&D minis, like basically they have one set of stats when they're at full health and then they change just slightly when they're at half health or less. So I mean it's like it doesn't feel like it's as responsive and dynamic with the battle that's ensuing and taking place. And HeroClix, it feels more like things are changing and evolving and unfolding as you interact with the game.
I like that answer.
I also, at its core, love it is pre-painted and pre-assembled. That is a huge
Yes.
selling point to me.
Yeah. Big time. Um, how does the game affect you outside of the actual game?
I mean, how does it affect me? Um, it gives me my form of stress relief, my way to relax. It gives me my stress relief, my way to relax, my way to escape from anything that's causing any sort of frustration or anxiety or stress in my life, and take my mind off of that and focus on something enjoyable that makes me happy. I would say definitely it has played a role in like building my communication with other people because of all of the interacting I do online and in person with other players and the community. It has definitely built my leadership skills as I've been in a more important role in judging and running events more often. Um, my current job is I'm the managing vet, the medical director of my hospital, and like I absolutely feel like I have learned skills from being a head judge at an event that played a role in how I'm able to perform at work. um and yeah, I would say those are kind of the big ones.
For me, I feel like I have developed relationships through the game that have overflowed into real life. People that I can talk to about stuff other than just hero clicks. That and some of these people I haven't even met in person yet, but I've talked to them. I've played online hero clicks with them, and we've developed friendships beyond just rolling dice, and that's really cool. Uh,
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. The my best man at my wedding, my best friend, I met him because him and I just happened to go to the same local venue to play HeroClix at when I started playing.
oh, cool.
And then that friendship just developed from there.
That's awesome.
Um, and like Yeah. And like PJ Bolin, I met through playing HeroClix, and like I message him about stuff outside and completely unrelated to HeroClix, and just talk to him like as a friend, as a person
Right.
outside of that. And that only exists because I met him through this game.
That's awesome. What makes it enjoyable to care about the game, and what makes it difficult?
I'm not exactly sure what the meaning behind that
Yeah, I
question
don't
is
know.
and like the direction to head with that. I mean, I guess what makes it enjoyable is just like I'm just passionate about the game and I love playing the game, and it's so easy to just care about it and love it when it's fun for you, and it is for me.
um,
I guess yeah, the other part of that, what makes it difficult to care about the game is maybe like I feel like that one kind of makes a little bit more sense, and maybe that like the parts that make it difficult to care are when it feels frustrating that I can't achieve doing what is needed to make players happy. Um like I can think of Worlds 2024 that there were moments where I saw players frustrated, and nothing I could do in my power to make their experience any better than it was in that moment. And so in that moment, it's difficult to find that enjoyment. But at the same time, like the other side of that was I see the frustration. What else can I possibly do to make this better? And it was really easy to sit down and look for those things and try to find them. But I mean, yeah, as I learned from talking to Nate White that weekend, that I let that difficulty and that stress get to me in a moment, where it was hard to continue to have that passion in every given second that I wanted.
mhm. um, and his final question is, if you don't mind sharing, when, if ever, have you felt at your most frustrated, disappointed, unsure with HeroClix?
For me, that would be the year that Lorcana started. I don't remember exactly. Disney Lorcana. That was 2023, according
Mhm.
to a quick Google search. So I'd say about 2023 was the moment that I had the kind of that low point of like unsure, is this the game that is where I should be best spending all my passion and energy and focus. And definitely with the start of Lorcana, I considered and explored the possibility of like maybe should I be putting my focus and passion into this. At that particular Gen Con, I judged both for HeroClix and for Lorcana at their inaugural set of events to see like maybe is this game a better fit for me. Um, and I kept my mind open to that possibility. But ultimately, no, I think I mean, clearly I'm still here 2 years later, so clearly HeroClix was the one that was the right fit for me. But that was definitely the time when I kind of had that moment and like, well, there's this new game starting. Maybe I should look at something else. Maybe I should give something else a chance. Um, where I definitely did a lot of self reflection then.
Okay. Mark
And it
Bird.
was surprisingly recent.
Yeah, that's only two
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah. Mark Bird wrote in all the way from down under in
Yeah.
Australia. He wants to know: do you find your rugged good looks help or hinder people listening to your judge decisions?
Well, I mean, they listen to my judge decisions just fine, so I have to imagine they help.
It's, maybe it's a little distracting because you're so dreamy. How important do you feel it was has been to have
I
direct
could see
community
that.
involvement in the game from people like yourself, Silver Age extraordinary Aaron Morgan, intern Danny Meacham, and most recently appointed playtest leader PJ Bolin? How important do you feel it has
I mean,
been?
I think the community is yeah, I think the community really appreciates that and really values it. And I think it's definitely important. Um maybe that like I've got some personal bias of like um one of the people trying to provide that direct community involvement, so maybe it makes more sense to ask the people that are benefiting or not benefiting from it more rather than the person doing it. But for me, I think it's important, so that's why I try and do as much as I can in the way of being involved in the community as directly as I possibly can. And I'm always open to ideas on what more I could be doing. And if people want to tell me what more could I be doing, how else could I possibly be helping, please tell me these things. I need to know them. The only way I could do them is if I know.
Yeah, I think at least I think for me, having a name and a face with the game, with the company, helps to keep it from being this omnipresent, faceless entity out there. But to actually see your face, know your name, know PJ, know Ryan O, um, it puts more of a personal touch to the company. So you're not just this like entity out there that people just complain about. It's a little easier to relate to a person than it is to a company. I think for a player.
Right.
Will you be at Worlds this year? And if so, what do you predict are the top three figures that will raise a swift judge call throughout the Swiss rounds?
Will I be at Worlds this year? Yes, I absolutely plan on that right now. As of today, obviously, like the life can always happen and take us in weird, unexpected directions. So uh, I can't say with 100% certainty of anything, but right now I am actively planning on it as best as I possibly can. What do I think are the top three figures? I mean, even thinking about that, we know like Smash and Destroy is coming out soon enough as the next set that's coming out, so who knows what's in that? That could have stuff that has questions. After that one is Lantern Legacy. That one might be here by the time for Worlds. That one could possibly have stuff that has rules questions in it. And then there are Iconics stuff coming out between now and then, and we're just starting to get previews of some con exclusives that are coming out between now and then. So I feel like part of that question is a challenge, just because I don't even know all of the options of
Mm-hmm.
what could contribute to a judge call yet. I think the Spot and his spot marker from Spider Verse is one that uh, has a high probability of being one of those figures. Um, I'm wondering with Reggie Inojasa's fantastic hard work of analyzing the zombie unicorn, if there is going to be possible concern with that one, and that being a figure that's going to cause some questions. Um, Reggie is a beautiful, brilliant minded person who has a great analytical eye for finding these clever and unique teams that utilize very, very specific rules interactions to create interesting combos. And I really value his insights on those teams. But for that reason, I'm wondering if Zombie Unicorn has the possibility for one of those. Um, Definitely, I've seen some conversations starting to pop up about that really interesting new rule in the comp that when a character generates a bystander, the bystander gets its keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if there is a silver event at Worlds, that maybe some silver figure that generates bystanders is going to have some sort of interaction that's going to cause those questions. Um, and that's one I think is kind of the third possibility, but I'm gonna have to kind of go look back through those figures and figure out if one of those possibly could be that number three figure. Otherwise, I think number three is going to be a figure that we don't even know what that figure is yet, because it hasn't even been previewed yet. Um, and that's kind of my thought on those top three.
And briefly, what are your thoughts on stalling tactics employed by seasoned players winding out the clock to avoid losing points? Not directed at specific players, but has been spoken of a bit in the last 12 months.
Well, number one, and I think this was actually surprisingly like it was surprising to me, but I think it was a really, really good insight that somebody shared with me of if you're sitting here and saying the word like stalling or stalling tactics and speaking about stalling for the past 12 months, did anybody call a judge to say that was stalling? Did you call a judge to say it was stalling? Because if a judge was never called, like clearly there wasn't enough belief that it was stalling to even involve the judge. So
Well, I
maybe it
think
really wasn't stalling, and it's just kind of people having some hurt feelings about the game not going the way they wanted it to. Um, and I get the core concept of stalling. That's absolutely horrible. Absolutely, like I think there should be strong penalties for stalling when it happens and when it's caught, but it's only caught if attention is brought to it. Because like in a room of 120 players, 170 players, I can't watch every game, every
right.
second of those games. If stalling is happening in one of them, I only know about it if attention is brought to it. And I mean, sometimes the attention has been brought of like, hey, judge, before we get into this round, I have a concern about this. Can you try to be a little bit more present in our game? Watch this a little bit more carefully. And sometimes like that is enough where then it prevents the stalling from happening, whether I'm there for the whole 50 minutes of the game, like if we're in the final two and the judge is actively sitting by the side of the match the whole time, then it's probably not even going to happen because they recognize like they're being watched closely. Or other times, if it's like if I'm just there for the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, that's enough where it's felt, and then the player never attempts to stall, and then their opponent never has the concern, and at the end is like, thank you, that was perfect. um, or it's the room of 170. I can't be everywhere at once. They call me over when they're like, I'm starting to get suspicious of stalling. And then I stand there for, if it's the rest of the game, if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, enough where their concern is adequately addressed and they no longer have that fear that stalling is happening in their game. So I'd say my thought is it's not happening if you're not telling a judge about it. Whether or not you want to say it's happening, it didn't happen if you're not willing to involve a judge.
What is the tournament etiquette as far as judge involvement and audience involvement? Because I know a specific instance that got a lot of publicity a couple of events ago, and the two players involved in the actual game did not call a judge. And the only people that really seemed upset about it were bystanders. Um, but
Yeah, yeah. If
nobody
it's
actually
the
called a
exact same
judge.
one, right? If it's the exact same one I'm thinking of that you're referring to,
Mm-hmm.
that judge, even individually, as soon as the match ended, pulled aside each of the two players involved in that game and talked to them in depth in private about it, without leading questions to begin with, to see if there were any feelings from either one of them that that could have even vaguely been stalling. And then when he could not get any sense that stalling was happening in from either one, like neither one of them believed stalling occurred, then he started even trying to like ask a little bit more leading questions of like, I timed it out. This happened. Like, did that, even after hearing that now, does that add any feelings that stalling occurred,
Mm-hmm.
any uncertainty or bad feelings or hesitations about this game? And they, both of the players still agreed, like, no, that just, the game was progressing. Decisions were happening, that those were the choices that needed to be made. It needed to take up that amount of time, and neither of them felt like it ultimately impacted who won that game, or that tournament, and neither one of them felt like it was stalling. So I mean, the judge even put in the work to check as thoroughly as he possibly could.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, it was really the bystanders were the ones most concerned about it. um, what exactly is the etiquette? I mean, I think it's reasonable, for a bystander, if they see something they're questioning and that they're suspicious of is compromising the integrity of the tournament, to bring that up to a judge's attention. Don't interrupt the game. Don't interrupt the players. Don't bring it to the attention of the players. Bring it up to the judge. And the judge can decide what needs to be done about it and can start that investigation process, in a way that kind of upholds the integrity of that tournament and the integrity of that game between those two players without it turning into a situation of like coaching.
Um, is there a way to? I'm not sure how to ask this, but okay, if I'm at a game and I feel my opponent is stalling, um, I have a hard time calling for a judge because I feel embarrassed. I don't want to embarrass my opponent because I enjoy the relationships of the game as much as I enjoy the game itself. So I don't want to be like, "Hey, jerk, you're stalling." Is there a more nonchalant way of getting your attention as a
Okay.
judge?
That's a really good point, really fair point. I guess I hadn't thought about it from that angle of like you don't want to create a bad relationship with your opponent. And I feel like, I mean, some of that comes down to the specific opponent that you're against and things like that. Because I mean, I think at the higher level of play, most of those big name players, like if you were to call over a judge because you're playing against Lucas and Tom Van Holland and said, like, Lucas, nothing against you. I just want a judge to be around for the rest of our game. Or I'm a little concerned that maybe a little bit of stalling is going on. It's nothing personal. If we could just have the judge here for a couple of minutes, I think it's something where, especially then, if like after the game you take the time to talk to them about that, that they're not going to take it personal as any sort of personal attack. That they're just because like because you're not trying to make it a personal attack. You're
Right.
trying to make sure that when the game is over, both you and them, and even the viewers at home, if it's a streamed game, or the spectators in the audience, all feel confident that this game happened in a way that upholds the integrity of the tournament, and that neither one of them questions you as a player. Because it's also like, basically, what you're trying to say is, hey, Lucas, I'm worried maybe a spectator might look at this and accuse you of stalling, and that would hurt your reputation in the community. And if Anthony is standing over here during our game, he's not going to let that happen. He's not going to let you stall. So then that bystander can feel more confident that everything you're doing is on the up and up, and that there's no way they should be able to badmouth you about this game you're having with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel any player who is humble enough to be able to receive feedback can hear that and say, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's not a personal attack, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the game, and making sure that we're all on the same page with this.
I like that.
um and like, yeah, and I think like that's maybe a good way to approach it.
Good. Um,
Because
Ryan.
like you said, the game that you had the example of, there was a judge watching that whole game,
Right.
and the bystanders were still a little suspicious of it. They would have been way more suspicious if that judge wasn't there.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Um,
sorry. That game that you mentioned where the bystanders got really concerned about did stalling happen in this game. I feel that would have been an entirely different conversation if a judge wasn't there the whole time.
right.
But I think like the conversation also changes a little bit when you consider like, well, there was a judge sitting right there watching that entire game. Like, really, could it even like how much do we really believe stalling happened, knowing that
Right.
that was going on?
Yeah. Ryan Redmond asks, "What does your cardio routine look like on judging off season?"
Well, that's going to be really embarrassing and sad, but I don't have one. I don't work out. I am very much a lazy person.
Well, you got two young ones now,
It's
so
really just sprinting for hero clicks.
yeah, I'm sure your kids will keep you active. Two little ones.
Oh yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. Like my daughter, when we were going around Disney, she wanted to be carried around like either on my shoulder or on my hip. And a full day of Magic Kingdom in 80 or 90-degree weather with a 3-year-old on your shoulders, I guess that kind of counts as cardio.
Yeah. When you travel to out of state events, do you prefer to fly, drive, or run? And then a follow up question of mine is: has your opinion of that changed in recent days with air travel shenanigans?
Um, Recent air travel stuff, no, that hasn't impacted
Okay.
my preferences at all. I'd say my preference is if I can reasonably drive, which I guess for me is like it's going to be a 12-hour drive or less, I'm going to drive. If it's going to be longer than that, then I'm going to fly. Um, and really for me the big impact is just like, is it going to require me to take an extra day off of work if I drive versus fly? And that's kind of what makes the decision for me.
Okay. Can we get you a play?
But yeah,
Get you to play a game at an event soon instead of judging.
like, I have to not judge in order to play the game. Like, good luck. I will wish you good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor, Ryan. But if it's like playing a game in addition to judging, like on the side or in the off hours, 100%. All you have to do is ask me about it. I would love to do that. I was really ultimately sad Champion Clix Open, Jonathan Virgilio had brought like a bunch of boosters of DC icons, which is such a fun set in my opinion. I was so on board and trying to check in about like when can we play this, when can we play this, and then it just ultimately didn't pan out because the idea was getting a couple of people together for it, and it just didn't quite work out, which is sad. But I was absolutely excited about that. So yeah, I mean, you you help make it happen, Ryan, in off hours, and I'll 100% be on board for doing that.
Sounds good. Um, what program should every event be run through in the future?
What?
What program should every event be run through in the future? The scorekeeping.
Oh, like the tournament software?
Yeah.
HC units,
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
It's so good.
Is there any other answer? I feel like that's the only answer.
Yeah. Um, I think the answer is HC units. It's just so good.
So good.
You used it for Red, White, and Clicks. We used it at Champion Clicks Open. There were some Facebook posts that Wiz or no, it was what was it, Gamma Trade Show slides or something where WizKids even shouted out HC units. Um, so I really think it is the best tournament software for the game of HeroClix.
Absolutely. Totally agree. What event formats do you feel like should be at every multi-day event?
That's a good question. So one that I liked back when I was a player as a like a way that the multi-day qualifier worked was if you went undefeated in day one of the qualifiers, you auto qualified for the final set. If you went undefeated in day two, you auto qualified. So like day one, you went undefeated, you didn't even need to play day two. Day two, you go undefeated, you auto qualify. Otherwise, um, the remaining spots in the final are filled with the players who had the best record combined across day one and two of the qualifiers. I think that was a really interesting way that they did it, and I thought that was really fun as a player. Um, that being said, like otherwise in terms of formats of like, I mean, 300 modern, I think like that's just a staple. I think that's important to have at any big event.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Pulp. I think it highlights some pieces that otherwise wouldn't see competitive play, like in 300 modern. So I really like seeing Pulp represented. Um, and then, I mean, I think 400 silver, again, I really like how it highlights some pieces. It highlights some modern age pieces that wouldn't be played otherwise, but also it, for those longtime seasoned players that have been around for years, it adds value back to their collection. And it means that those pieces that aren't modern can still be played competitively and still have meaning and value to hold on to and to use and play with, or trade if that's what they want to do with it. So I mean, for me, I think those are kind of the big formats. Battle royales, I think it's really important to have a casual side event. There's more than one demographic. There's more than just the competitive player that wants to win first place and design a HeroClix figure. There are other people that are going to these big events, and a lot of them are just, I want to go play a casual, relaxed game with my buddies. So I think battle royales are super important for that. And then I think like it's nice to have one other side event at least. The supercharged sealed is a cool way to do it. The some of the other ones that WizKids has done over the years, like Joker's Wilds, has been great. So having just something as a side event, I think, is fun and nice. Um, I think having a teams event is definitely important. Players love playing in teams and playing with their friends, and I love that that's an option in HeroClix. So like the 3v3 teams events that happen, or the occasional 2v2 team events that I've seen, I think those are super important to keep doing at those big events.
I agree.
And then if it's at a convention, if it's at anywhere where like strangers can walk up and just see this event happening, learn to plays, demos, introductions for these new people, I think that's critically important. We have to
Yes,
get more people in the game. um, I would value that one really highly.
totally agree. Matt Donham asks, "What's it like knowing more rules than 99% of the population? And also, have you always been part cheetah, or did you use some secret veterinarian science to splice your DNA? Part man and part animal, all Barnstable."
um No, I mean, like in the community, I had no reputation as being a fast like player or person prior to becoming a judge. Like, um, I my signature on HC Realms, if you still remember that site, from when that was a huge part of the HeroClix community, is still like, if the game is moving fast and a fun time, it's a barn burner. If it's bogged down with tons of rules questions that make it take forever, it's a barn stable. Because like as a player, I was more the type of person who would ask these incredibly esoteric rules questions in the middle of the game because they came up. It's not just like for funsies, they would happen in my games, and it would take up just annoying amounts of time on the clock, both annoying to me and to my opponent. Like it'd be nice if the rules call just went fast, but like I still remember and I take pride in that Nationals 2014. I got a time extension because I asked a rules question that was so complicated. It took so much time for the judges to answer, um, which I thought was really neat because that like basically never happens in HeroClix. Um, and like, I mean, is that really something to be like super proud of, that like you managed to do something that took up so much time? Even the judges agreed you needed more time as a result of this. Like, I don't know, but it was funny to me and I thought it was
Yeah.
fun. Um,
Are you ever
so I
stumped?
mean, no, that's entirely new to be a judge, and it's just by running and running quickly and trying and putting in that effort. Anyone can do it.
Are you ever stumped by a question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I turn to the other people that I respect in the community, as people that I think are very knowledgeable about the rules that I trust, and I like soundboard it off of them and talk to them about it. Um, I mean, I would say there's never been a question where I just look at the question, I'm like, shrug, I can't even come up with an idea for an answer. It'd be more like, here is a question, I can come up with like three possible answers, and I have no idea to weigh which one is best. Or like I have some vague idea, but like no one clear best answer. And so then it's a soundboarded off of the other people that I respect and like get what their thoughts are too, to try and decide which is the answer I would be happiest going with and that I have more confidence in once I've talked to them. Um, so that absolutely happens. Um, yeah, how does it feel in general to just um what is it like knowing more rules than 99% of the population? It's just like, I mean, I did it in terms of like I tried to learn these rules and get to where I am because as a player I felt like I could leverage those corner case interactions to help me win an extra 1% of games if I did that, and I wanted to use that tool to try and just be a better player. And then it just kind of evolved from there into like, it's fun to talk about this and I like talking about this, and then it's fun to help people talk while talking about this, and then like it just evolved from there. um and I mean, it's not like, I guess it's just, I just know it, and so I get to enjoy people asking me questions about it, and it's fun when they ask me questions.
So you don't have a microchip in your brain of the rule book, and you just able to access it. Joe Clark wants
No,
to.
I mean, definitely as well from like, from my primary job, my day job, I've learned like it's not about knowing 100% of the information at the ready at that microchip in your brain all the time. A lot of times it's just about knowing how to get to the answer as quickly as possible,
Mhm.
and reliably. And that makes a world of difference. So it's about knowing, like, okay, this is the rules question. I know I can go here to look up that answer rather quickly and get the answer, and not necessarily having 100% of that information memorized.
When some of my new players ask me questions, I will go a little too in depth sometimes to explain why the answer is what it is. But I want them to know not just what the right answer is, but why it is, because then that can go a long ways to helping in the future with similar types of questions.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like that was definitely something for me as a player when I was first kind of beginning this journey to being as knowledgeable as I am about the rules. Step one was just every time asking that why, not just what is the answer, but why is it the answer? Because then it makes it easier to understand and intuit and not even need to ask the next
Right.
question because I already know the why and I can get the answer on my own.
Yep. Joe Clark wants to know, what do you consider stalling and how to combat it, and what rules interactions are the toughest to remember? I think we kind of covered stalling already.
I mean, yeah, like it definitely isn't stalling if you're not calling a judge for it. But I mean, there's also the difference between like slow playing and stalling, or whatever term you want to use for that. Of like this person just like they think at a different speed than you. It takes them a little bit longer to analyze their choices, or they're analyzing more choices than the average player, and it takes them a little bit longer than the average person or than you in specific do to make a decision. And like, I think the community, especially the high end players, know which are the players that it's like, if I'm playing against that guy, he's just somebody who's going to take longer on every turn of the game. Whether he's winning or losing, it doesn't matter. He's just always going to take longer on his turns. And that's just who he is.
Yep.
And that's not stalling because he's doing it when he's losing and when he has no board state advantage and he has no easy way to recover. And it's just how his brain operates. And that's an entirely different thing than stalling,
Absolutely.
where it's like I'm trying to manipulate the clock to take advantage of the situation in this moment because I have the advantage to try and win. And so definitely recognizing and understanding that difference, both as a player and as a judge and as a spectator, I think is also important to do. And then, yeah, the other half of that, the what rules interactions are the toughest to remember. Um, Really, it'd be the ones that change the most frequently. Are some of the tougher ones to remember because it's like, is that still the most accurate answer, or was that something that I'm remembering from the last rules edition or 7 rules editions ago, and I'm mixing them up? Um, Other ones that are tough to remember are when um when there just really isn't a great explanation of why. Sometimes that just makes it harder for my brain to retain that information because like having that why just helps so much. And if it's like, well, the rule is this because somebody said so, that one's a little bit harder to remember at times, especially like off the cuff. And that's one that I more often have to look up. And then kind of the third category is like intuitively you read it and get the gist of what it's saying and expect it works one specific way, but the language is like just specific enough where if you read it carefully, it's technically just barely different than that. And those are ones that sometimes are hard to remember. Um, I'm trying to, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but there was just one I was talking about with PJ the other day where it was like, if I don't open the rule book up, I'm going to expect the sentence says this. But then when I open the rule book up, it's just different enough that it actually gives me the answer clearly and specifically, and it's different from what I expected.
Right.
Because it's like just barely different from what I intuitively expected the words were.
A lot of times,
And those would be kind of the 3 big categories that are tough.
a lot of times, real world logic doesn't always transfer to game logic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And Ryan Redmond had a few more questions. He wants to know what. Oh, it's the same questions.
Oh, okay. They were just the sorting order or something changed.
It's the same list of questions. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was the one that I was talking with PJ about. So it was a character is assigned Khonshu as their or Khonshu's avatar is that character. That character is standing next to Ghost Rider, who says my powers can be used even if an opponent's effects say otherwise.
hmm
And then that character is pulse waved. Can they still use like the probability control from Khonshu? And it's like, well, I remember um, if that character gets the effect, like if Khonshu were to say this character gains the following trait, then it would be a really easy like no, they don't get to do it. And I remember there was like the win post on Ghost Rider, like no, their traits and effects aren't protected, but their powers are protected, and like so then powers through a trait or effect are not protected. And then I remember somebody asked about like Khonshu on the win of if I just have Khonshu and there's nothing else added into this and somebody pulse waves my guy, can I use my prop control? And the answer is no. Um, so then it's one of those like, well, I intuitively expect Khonshu probably just says avatar guy gets this trait that says can use prop control, and it's nice and simple, and then this is really easy to intuitively expect the answer. But then you go and read it and it's like that's not actually what it says. And when you take each of these rules independently and you try and just like quick sum it up in your head, you might like shortcut to the wrong answer. But it's like, but I guess actually um because they can use a power when they're adjacent to Ghost Rider. They could use their probability control when they're adjacent to Ghost Rider. They're never gaining a trait or an effect or a special power, yeah, like a trait or an ability or an effect like that from Khonshu. And Khonshu isn't in the range of the pulse wave, so there's no reason why they can't gain the probability control. But it's kind of one of those if I took too many shortcuts and just imagined what I expected the paper to say, then I would have gotten the wrong answer. So that one could be hard to remember if I don't like quickly just reread all the text and look it up.
All right, great. Well, that has been our community questions. um,
Yeah,
so, Anthony, you have definitely set the record for the most questions from the community. Usually I blow through those in like 10, 15 minutes, and we've been talking for over an hour at this point. Um,
oh wow, okay.
do you want to continue with the rest of the show with my questions, or you want to call it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love that. I'm always happy to talk more. As you might have noticed, I like to talk.
All right. I didn't want to eat up all your time, and I didn't expect the community to have quite so many questions for you, which is great. I'm glad they are able to reach out to you and ask the questions they want to know. So that's great.
Yeah, I'm grateful they did too. Thank you, each and every person who asked a question.
Yes, that's awesome. And to everybody that did, keep watching for future interviews and posting more questions for more interviewees, more guests on my show. I love that. Um, so, Anthony Barnstable, people obviously know who you
Yeah.
are. They know about you. They know your name, um, but they don't really know you as a person, as a player. Um, I have consulted the Almighty Kevin, the Kevin, and delved into AI, and I have formulated the Clix questionnaire that is foolproof way for the community to get inside your head and for you to be truly known. Are you brave enough to be known by the
Okay.
community?
Okay. That sounds fun.
All right. Um, what is the best sandwich?
Oh, the best sandwich? I mean, ah, many people will hate me for this answer. So my dad, when I was a younger kid, he would make me a sandwich that he.
I
Can
got
you
you.
hear me?
Yep.
Hello,
Yep.
hello. Am
I
I
got you.
back? I'm not exactly sure if I'm back or not.
Yeah, you are.
Um, Okay, perfect. My dad would make a sandwich he called the cheese toasty, and that he invented, and it was a single slice of like white bread that you put a slice of Kraft American single, like the classic American cheese, on, and then you toast it. And I like softer, chewier textures than crunchy, so I modified his recipe, this very complex recipe, and I took a slice of white bread and a slice of Kraft singles cheese and microwaved it for like 30 seconds. And it's an open face sandwich that I still call the cheese toasty because it's toasty warm, even though it's not toasted bread. But that would be, I'd say, my still like the best sandwich. It's super easy to make, super simple. Everybody should probably have those ingredients at home. And it's enjoyable. I like a nice, soft, warm sandwich at
Well,
times.
Anthony,
But I recognize I'm a heathen for that sandwich.
I just got a memo from the other room that my father-in-law does that.
Oh, hey, see, it's a good sandwich. That's strong support.
All right, so as a judge, now that Beetlejuice has been in the game for a minute, um, obviously the community, the every other week the sky is falling, right? And there's a lot of people who are very anti
Yes.
Beetlejuice. Uh, do you feel that Beetlejuice is the detriment to the game that some people think he is? And the second part of that question is, um, how difficult is it to answer questions about what a free action is during certain powers?
I mean, I have not actually seen a lot of people asking about like, does this count as a free action or not with Beetlejuice type of questions. Um, but again, like the scene where I'm seeing people playing Beetlejuice is at high level competitive play where I'm
Right.
expecting people are pretty familiar with that overall. So I might be a little biased in my experience of when I'm seeing that question. Um, and who I'm having to answer it for. So I feel like that part, it's not really that hard to answer. Um, and I'm happy to take the time to answer it with people. Um, I think Beetlejuice is one of the most like comic accurate, movie accurate, however you want to consider that, HeroClix figures ever made. Both in terms of like the actual representation on the dial, but even on like a meta, like break the fourth wall level of like in the movies, Beetlejuice is a controversial character. Some people hate him, some people love him. In HeroClix, some people hate Beetlejuice, some people love him. He's a very polarizing character that nobody is just like ambivalent about. Um, and he's a name that you've either heard him like every single week, all the time. Everybody knows Beetlejuice and has strong opinions about that guy. Like Beetlejuice, who's that guy? Because he's like not even showing up at your casual venue. Just like the normal humans in the worlds of the movie that are like, I don't know these ghost characters. So I feel like just everything about that figure on like that meta fourth wall breaking level is just so accurate about it to how he's interacted in the game with how he is portrayed in the movie interacting with other characters and the worlds around him. Um, um, do I think he's a detriment to the game? Ultimately, no, I think he's actually healthy for the game. Matthew Graikunos, Matty G, he really helped open my eyes up to that. He had a really insightful take, I feel, where he said, he has a young son who he's trying to teach HeroClix to, who he wants to learn and share this game that he is passionate about with. But at the high level competitive play, like the complexity of the game gets a bit overwhelming and really hard for a young child outside of Isaac Arnold Berkovitz. Um, that can be really intimidating and hard. And if he just hands his son Beetlejuice and just tells him, just play this figure, it's on your main force, it's 100 points of your team, and you got 200 other points worth of stuff to work with, the game suddenly becomes really simple and it's really accessible to teach that new person, to teach that young kid that's excited about the game, that wants to share this hobby with his dad, the family member that's open, the spouse that's open to learning about it but isn't like ready for that level of complexity and depth to just be like, okay, I'm going to play this thing. And now the game is walk towards each other and punch each other. And it's really simple and it's intuitive and it's straightforward. I feel like, and I mean, seeing at the high level competitive play, the people who like know those really important rules that they have to know in order to be able to perform at that level, they're not the ones asking me the questions about Beetlejuice. So he seems to make perfect sense to them too,
Mhm.
and be something that they can understand. So it seems like it's only a piece that's really like confusing and hard for like that player that's not quite casual, not quite high level competitive, like somewhere in the middle, trying to maybe make that jump in that gap. And they're trying to sideline Beetlejuice and they're trying to use lots of free actions, or their opponents are using lots of free actions. And they're not sure what free actions are entirely because they haven't really tried to understand the whys of the game yet with a judge or somebody who could help them out. And they're the players that are probably going to experience the most negative play experience with Beetlejuice, um, because they're the ones that like yeah, there's the most to try and learn at that point in time. But like I think the introductory, I am just learning this game, or I am the top level player who has years and years of experience, I think for those two extremes, Beetlejuice is super helpful for them. um and I mean, I also like, I feel like at times there definitely is an excessive amount of free actions that
Oh, for
happen,
sure.
and like could imagine a situation where players are taking so many actions on a single turn, that it seems like the connection is affected by that choice. But players are taking so many actions or free actions on a single turn. Okay. Let me know when I unfreeze. In the
You're
meantime, I'm
back.
just gonna
I got you.
try and do a loading wheel, I guess, whatever this
I
is.
got you.
I'm trading my Karate Kid moment until I unfreeze, and you let me know when that is.
I got you.
Okay, good. Um, and I feel like, yeah, I feel like there are definitely some teams that can take so many free actions or do so many things in a turn that their turns can suddenly turn into a 10-minute, a 15-minute, a 20-minute turn. And they're not stalling in the slightest because they're actively go, 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 doing things, rolling dice, making attacks, making choices, moving pieces on the map, actively taking actions, perplexing, outwitting, all of that stuff. But they can do so much in one turn. It takes so much time. And Beetlejuice suddenly says, no, your turn's really short now. It's really fast. Don't do that anymore. So I think he can actually potentially have a lot of room to be healthy for the game for that reason. Um, but I also, at the same time, I see how there is room for him to sometimes create negative play experiences. He can create stress. He can create anxiety in a game. Um, so, like, do I think he is the perfect, ideal, greatest HeroClix figure ever designed? No. Do I think he is really, really accurate and a figure that absolutely has a place in this game, filling some role? Yeah, I think he could be a good part of the game in some capacity and way.
Yeah, I recently discovered a new way to utilize him. Um, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't want to reveal my team too much. I want to hopefully play at Origins, but he does this very specific thing that I find extremely useful in the current meta. And I'm looking forward to using that. And some people like Miles Kane will try to arm wrestle me for using him, but um, I Beetlejuice I think definitely fills a very specific role as a tool of the team.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm definitely interested to learn more and see what your team ultimately does with him.
I'll send you my team build later. I've been kind of working on it with some
Okay.
people. Um, it's not optimized yet. It's a work in progress, but I got some time for the next tournament. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
how did you get into veterinary medicine?
Yeah. What about it?
How'd you get into it?
Oh, yeah, that would probably date back to, I don't remember if it was, I think it's around middle school. Um, that I kind of like hit a moment of realization that I want to be a veterinarian. This is my calling, this is my passion, this is what I was made for in this world. Um and I've just stuck with it ever since then. Um for me it was definitely like biology and medicine and science is so fascinating and interesting to learn about and to think about and to study and be a part of. That it definitely that was kind of a career field I always felt like made a lot of sense to me. And then it was something where I saw an injured animal and it clicked in my brain that an injured person is really like a person who broke their arm or like got shot or got stabbed or something. Like that's like the squeamishness feeling of like that's gross, that's icky. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to look at it. But an injured animal is like, oh, I have to help that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, I have to help that animal. And so I have to gain the knowledge to be able to do that. Um, that was a part of it, and then the other part of it was just like I've always had so much empathy for animals. Like if a person bites me, they're a jerk. If a cat or a dog bites me, they were scared, they were fearful, they were just reacting in the moment. I mean, I literally have a scar on my face from where a dog bit me in the face, and my response in the moment, like immediately as it happened, was no, he just did it because he was painful and he was scared. I get that. I'm just going to go clean up this blood and we'll be back in and we're going to keep on helping out your dog. And then I ended up going and getting like taken to the emergency room to have stitches placed in my face
Oh
that
wow.
exact same day. But at the same time, it was like, it was not your dog's fault. He was just scared and he was hurt and we have to help him feel better. Um, Whereas if a person did that, I'd be like, that person is a jerk and I never want to see them again. And that dog, like, I would totally be happy to see them back as a client, as a patient, because I'm not going to hold it personally against that dog ever. Um, and so, yeah, just that difference in empathy. Definitely, as a child, I had a moment where my parents got divorced. So we like obviously all lived together in one house, and then they each moved into their own separate different houses. And shortly after that happened, I talked to my mom about like really wanting a cat. And so we adopted a cat from the shelter, and she was so incredibly like at the shelter. She was friendly and nice and sweet, and I loved her, and I wanted to adopt her. And then we took her home, and she was absolutely terrified and hid. And it was probably like 6 months of living with this cat before we ever saw her in our own home. Because she was just hiding constantly. And we set out food and water for her, and she would come out and eat, and the water bowl would go down, and the litter box would get used, and things like that. But only when we were not home, when she had no fears that we were going to see her. And my mom like definitely hit a moment of like, "Ugh, we really need to take this cat back to the shelter. This isn't working out. This isn't the right fit." And I blocked my mom's path over towards the cat when she said that and was like, no, we absolutely cannot. She is fearful. She just had a big change in her life. She was in one home, now she's suddenly in a new home that's very different from what she's used to. Everything has changed for her. She's just like me and what I'm going through, and we have to be here for her. And my mom, of course, hits the moment of like, well, okay, hearing that, there's no way I can take this cat back to the shelter. We're stuck with this cat for life.
My
And then
my
ultimately, that when we gave her that 6 months, the year she eventually started coming out, she eventually started opening up and and she was a great cat, and I loved her so much. And she's no longer with us anymore because cats don't live forever,
yeah.
unfortunately. Um, but like I loved her and she was a great cat, and it was just the only reason that she had that chance with my family was because I had that empathy for her, and I was able to look at what was she going through and put myself in her shoes and uh, try to see what did she need in this world. And that's just what I like to be able to do every single day.
Yeah, my 19-year-old son and his girlfriend just adopted a pit bull that had been in the shelter for 2 years. And they actually wanted a different dog, but then they saw the pit bull that had just been ignored for 2 years, and that's when they took home. Their hearts broke for him, and he's been a great dog. Um, so do you prefer small animals or do you like working with larger animals?
Oh, absolutely small animals. Every veterinarian I have met who has worked with large animals like cows and horses and things like that, and has done it for more than at least like 5 years, they can tell me the story about like, oh yeah, my knee has never been right since that time they kicked me. Oh yeah, my shoulder, tore my rotator cuff. Oh yeah, I broke my arm. I've shattered all these ribs, and now occasionally it hurts. And it's just like, wow, the amount of severe physical trauma that large animals can do to you because of their size and power. I don't think I want to endure that. So I like the small animals where, like, yeah, I mean, absolutely, a cat can rip me to shreds with its nails and its teeth, and a dog can absolutely bite my face and do quite a bit of damage with its strong teeth. But I don't have to worry as much. Like, it's a lot harder for a cat or a dog to start shattering my bones like a cow or a horse can. Um, I don't really have that same like life or death fear. Um, I mean, they're very strong creatures and they absolutely can inflict serious damage, but I don't have that same level of like fear and respect for a
Right.
as I do for those large animals that could really mess me up. But yeah, I'll also do like special species is the term I use for it. Other people commonly know them as exotics, but like snakes, ferrets, rabbits, pet gerbils and hamsters and sugar gliders and all of those fun creatures that aren't just four-legged and furry. Um, but also don't weigh like 10 times my body weight.
Right. How many pets do you have?
I have 5 cats.
No dogs?
It was a bit of a no dogs. It was a bit of a compromise. I was thinking like 1 or 2 cats. My wife was thinking around 5 or so, so we met right in the middle. We have 5. Um, and yeah, so I'm very much like I love working with dogs. I think dogs are fantastic. I love dogs very much, but in terms of like my personal life and owning a pet, I feel like I could not adequately give the amount of time and attention to a dog at this stage that they would need and that they would deserve, for me to feel like I was doing right by that animal. Between the attention the kids need, between the work hours that I do, between all that type of stuff, between also caring for the 5 cats, I feel like I would not be doing the best thing I possibly could for that dog by bringing him into my house now, or her.
Does your wife Morgan play HeroClix?
No, she does not.
um, if you were
She's
to add,
expressed that she's open to learning, and so maybe sometime I can get her to sit down.
yeah,
Sorry,
um,
but you were going on. If I could,
what's that?
yeah, your next question that you're about to start. Sorry,
Are
I
you with me?
interrupted you. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I'm still with you, I think. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Um, if you could
Okay.
add a power to the PAC, what would you add and why?
Oh, I've never thought about that. Um, I feel like it would have to be something that happens regularly in comic books or the type of content that HeroClix is utilizing, like now D&D with the Beholder and the Mimic and all of those guys as well. Um, so I feel like it has to be something that applies pretty consistently to stuff like that, um, and feels different enough from what we already have and already do and get.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like something along the lines of it. This one might have been a WWE power, but it was also a feat card, that was like whether it's a I don't know if it's better as a free action or if it's better as like whenever you make a close attack after resolutions, um, place the the hit character or the character that's the opposing character that's adjacent to you into a different square that's still adjacent to you. So like you're in your close combat tussling that you're doing with somebody, you're like forcibly kind of repositioning them into the spot that's more favorable for you in combat. I think something along those lines would be the type of standard power I'd want to see. The rationale behind that, really the one and only. I mean, technically they're the standard powers that add knockback, like Quake when you knock back characters. But really, the only standard power that repositions an opposing character right now is Force Blast. And it's pretty limited in how it does it because it's just like a straight line away from you. So I feel like that's a design space that feels common enough in comic books and other media that it could be like a standard power worthy thing that isn't there right now. Um, and it's kind of interacting with opposing figures in general. Like in that type of placement movement type of way isn't really something a lot of standard powers are doing. So it feels like different and distinct from what we already have. While still being something that like reasonably this is going to show up more than once set, more than once a year or something. It's something that you reasonably would see on figures.
I like the answer. It's something a little different. A lot of people said something along the lines of like a range flurry kind of situation.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I feel like in close combat and range combat, there's two sides to the coin. There's always the range combat expert and the close combat expert. There's the combat reflexes and energy shield deflection. That they do the same thing. Close combat has a double attack, whereas range doesn't. That's something I would like to see.
Okay, I could see that. I guess for me, kind of continuing that parallel, I think of like Quake, the close combat attack everybody adjacent to me. Its analog is Pulse Wave, the range combat attack everybody that I can in range. And so then I think of like Energy Explosion is the ranged equivalent of Quake or of Flurry, where
Oh,
it's Flurries make two attacks. Energy Explosion is make this attack that's hitting a bunch of people.
that's a
So
good
it's like
point.
it's not a perfect 1-to-1,
Right.
but it's got its feel that relates.
That's a good point. I like that. Um, who is the most famous person you've met?
Um, Most famous person I've met. I mean, probably Scott Porter, um, who I met through HeroClix,
Mm-hmm.
and know him through this game. Um, that's the one that most immediately comes to mind.
Okay.
I've always secretly wondered about it. This was like years and years and years ago. I don't even remember which Gen Con it was. Like maybe it was Gen Con 2011 or 2012 or so. Um, I was like randomly doing this event and talking with like the other people that were there and doing it. And at the end I read like the name tag, the badge of the other people that I was there with, and the one guy had a badge that said George Lucas, and I was like, oh, that's really coincidental, but like didn't say that part out loud. And then like thought about it after the fact and was like, is there any way that actually just was George Lucas just at Gen Con playing a game? Because he looked right for it and everything, where it's like, oh wow, that's really coincidental. You look like George Lucas and have the same name. But like, was it? I don't know. So that's always one I've like wondered about. Or
Or
was he like cosplaying
cosplay?
as George Lucas and so then
Yeah.
intentionally gets the badge that says it? Because that could totally have happened too. Um, so if I did really meet George Lucas, then I guess that one counts.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, I'll never know. So it gets to have that fun air of mystery instead.
All right. So you've been granted three wishes. I want to know your second wish, not the first one, not the last one. What's the wish in the middle?
Oh, that's interesting. Um, I don't know because I've never like totally thought that through of like wishes anyways because like that's not something that happens in the real world. Um, I don't know. Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, maybe. I'm hearing something in the background. Somebody's sharing their wishes.
That's my daughter. She's she's 13. She's
Oh,
loud.
okay. Oh, okay. I maybe something like I guess yeah. I don't know exactly all the rules on the wish, but maybe something along the lines of like if I could just being able to know that my children have a lifetime of happiness and have a good life ahead of them.
Okay. What has been your favorite MCU movie so far?
Oh, definitely my top three are the first Doctor Strange, the first Ant-Man, and Captain America Civil War. I think ultimately I'm going to have to give it to Captain America Civil War. I feel like the thriller, the suspense, the twists and turns that it took were just so well executed. Or I'm sorry, not Civil War. I'm so sorry I said that one. I meant Winter Soldier
Okay.
because like the like Arnim Zola reveal, how they had him as a character was such an interesting take. Um, the like shield has been infiltrated by Hydra this whole time, like yeah, it was a comic book thing, so it's not overly shocking that this happened, but at the same time like I didn't expect them to do it on film. I didn't see it coming. It was such a cool set of twists and turns and shocks and cool ways they represented the characters to feel accurate to the comics, or at least like paying the right respects to the comics with it, where I loved what they did with Winter Soldier as my number one. And then Doctor Strange visually was just awesome.
Yeah.
Ant-Man, the humor was nonstop, that just had me laughing the whole time and I loved it. But yeah, I'd give it to Winter Soldier.
Cool. I like that one too. Um, what makes Buffy the Vampire Slayer a good show? And have you heard about the reboot?
I have not heard about the reboot, so I'm gonna have to look into that. Um, I absolutely love Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a show. I've definitely watched all of it. I've watched all of Angel as well. Honestly, out of the two of them, I feel like Angel is the stronger show. Buffy, between the two of them, still has my favorite singular episode. My favorite episode was not normal. It was the episode where Buffy gets poisoned by the like hallucinogen demon
Mm-hmm.
that makes her think she's in the mental institute from right after she killed her first vampire. And she's not sure which one is the real world. Is it the one where she's institutionalized because she's just had this traumatic experience of a person died in front of her? And she's created this fictitious world where she is a vampire slayer and they're all monsters. And that's why it's okay that this happened. And that's the real reality, or the real reality is she is the vampire slayer and she was just poisoned by a demon and it's making her imagine this alternate world. And the episode even leaves it like open ended at the end where it's like either one could be the real world. um, and I thought that was such an interesting way they played it, of like, oh wow, they gave me more history on the like her origin story, her beginning that we hadn't really touched on. They gave me an interesting world building of like a whole separate world beyond the one that they've been showing me this whole time that I can imagine now. Um, and then just the whole time of like, now I get to kind of imagine this show from two different perspectives. Um, and which one do I think is right? So it also left me like getting to ask questions and think about the episode. And I really liked that one as a result. I feel like overall why it was a great show. Um, the characters felt for the most part human. Like even the monsters, like it felt like they had flaws. They had three dimensions. They made growth. They made development. They evolved over the course of the show. Um, so it felt just like really good storytelling, like what I want to see in storytelling happening before my eyes as I watched it.
Good.
And it wasn't perfect. It had its flaws.
Yeah. You should Google the reboot because I know that Sarah Michelle Gellar is
Okay,
signed on
yeah.
for it, so she will be playing herself.
Okay.
So
That sounds awesome. And I've also like since watched the original Buffy movie, if you've ever seen that one,
it's
which is so
horrible.
campy and fun and I love it. It is great. Oh, I love campy movies. They are so much fun.
If you were a transformer, what would you transform into?
Um I mean, I like the Transformers that don't necessarily choose cars and choose other a little bit more like um other items that just blend into society really well. So like the one that transforms into a microscope is a great
Mm-hmm.
example, or like the classic Soundwave who does his boombox that's obviously now very outdated and would not blend in at all. Um but yeah, I think I'd probably try and be like one of those types of transformers and transform into maybe like a piece of medical equipment, like a blood machine, a blood analyzer, um, or maybe like a laptop. Um, but I think I'd probably be like more that direction of transformer.
Okay. Um, all right. So Thanos is real. He's got the gauntlet with all the Infinity Stones, and he snapped his fingers and erased half of humanity. You are in a position of Hawkeye where your wife and your kids have just disappeared, and you have no idea if they're ever going to come back. You've gone on with your life for 5 years, and they've snapped back into reality. Um, have you moved on with your life? Are you still mourning your wife and kids? Are you going to have you moved on and you're going to take them back? How are you handling this situation?
I'm laughing because this is funny to me. Of like my because like who here has a wife and they haven't been asked by their wife like, well, how would you feel if I ever die someday? Like everybody's gotten that question from their significant other. And the answer I gave Morgan when she asked me that, and we still joke about it, is I looked at her and I said I would be really sad. And I meant it sincerely, but apparently that wasn't quite the most perfect answer. Apparently it should be something a little bit more than just I would be really sad. Um, so I wow, yeah, my whole family just snapped out of existence. I would be really sad. But I think I would try to move on with my life. Yeah. There's no point in like dwelling on the past and being trapped by the past and letting it ruin and destroy you because there's still the future ahead. Um, and I mean, my loved ones would want me to be happy and care about my happiness, I think. Um, and so like I think it would be very selfish as a person to say like, well, I want somebody to be incredibly depressed and have their life destroyed and ruined by my death. So I think instead it's like I would want other people to move on and to be happy and to be able to still find happiness and deal with that grief and process that grief and get to a point where they can find joy in the world again and purpose and meaning and all of those types of things. So that's what I would also strive for and think I would try and do. But yeah, then oh crud, now they just snap back into existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely going to like yeah, you're still my daughter, you're still my son, you're still parts of my life, you still like just because like you had no choice in being gone for the past 5 years, you didn't choose that. So I'm not gonna like punish you as a result of that. um Yeah, it's only 5 years, so I'm not like substantially older. I can still keep up with a child that small. Like, oh, if it was 20 years, like, and I'm 50 now, that's going to be a lot harder to keep up with a 3-year-old. But I'm still going to do my best. Um, because like, yeah, they're still my child. As far as they know, nothing, no time has passed, nothing has changed.
Mhm.
They are still going to be looking to me to be their parent, to be their support, to help them navigate this surprising and confusing time. So I have to be there for them. That is my responsibility. That's what I signed up for with these kids. I'm supposed to be the one that helps them through this life as much as I possibly can, as much as they want me to.
Good answer. Good answer. Um, all right. So, what is a character in HeroClix that's been made several times, but they've never gotten the right feel for the character, the source material?
Hmm. Um, that's definitely interesting. I'm trying to imagine who that is now. Um, yeah, that's a really good question. Um, I don't know. I feel like Ant-Man, there's still a lot of room to potentially, like, when he does his I'm fighting and changing size constantly throughout the fight between like small and normal and small and big and normal. I feel like there have definitely been attempts made to represent that in clicks, but I'm not sure if the mark has been hit 100%. And I feel like there's maybe still room to do an Ant-Man in a different way that maybe feels like, yes, this one feels like it captures that he shrunk down to be really tiny to sneak past this dude and then punch the guy behind him in the face.
Yep. That's a good answer. I like that.
Or like, oh, yeah, a blow is coming at his face, and suddenly he became really, really huge. So that way it didn't affect him as much. Like I feel like there's a room with Ant Man to go in some cool directions.
That's a good answer. Um, when you do play HeroClix, what is your most used character? Like, what do you gravitate? What figure? What character do you gravitate towards? Not the figure, but the character. Like, do you grab an Ant Man? Do you grab a Deadpool? Do you grab Superman? What's your most used one?
Yeah. So for years and years, the Young Avengers keyword is like the keyword that if I could if I could play it, if I could make it work, I love that keyword. I think those figures are fun. I think those figures are consistently interesting. I like the play style of Young Avengers characters that we've gotten over the years. Avengers set Patriot from like what was that 2007 or something was one of my favorite HeroClix of all time. That I played the heck out of that figure and overused that figure very often. I like I feel his dial very much did a good job of like telling a story. And as you go from click to click, you see the development of the character across the story of him in the comics. I think it was just really well represented. I think it was really interesting in capturing that dynamic nature of a HeroClick style that as he takes damage, his stats are changing, his powers are changing. He's interacting with in the game in a different way than he did on previous clicks.
Right.
So I feel like that one just to me captured what a HeroClix figure was. So I overplayed the heck out of that figure. More recently, a figure I really, really have fallen in love with is that Legacy Molecule Man. I think he is interesting in terms of like what he does. Between how he interacts with like lines of fire, between how he interacts with free actions, I think he is absolutely a fun piece um, to put on the table and to see on the table. So he would be the one if I was going to a venue tomorrow and the following week and the week after, and I could fit him on my team all 3 times. He would probably be a top contender figure that I would be picking.
Okay. So this next question, I already know the answer to, and it's kind of more of a reveal. Will you be attending the next Red, White, and Clicks event?
I plan on it. I would absolutely love to be there. Could I judge for you if I were to go?
Yes, I reached out to you a few months ago, and I would love for you to be one of the judges for the event, whether it be the side event or the main event, whatever you're willing to do. I am more than happy to have the fastest judge in the West, in the Midwest, at Red, White, and Clicks. Really looking forward to having you there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to be there. I think it's going to be a fun time.
I don't know if you've heard, but I've been putting in a lot
Yeah,
of
we'll
legwork already.
get to spend.
Are you caught up?
Yeah.
Are you caught up with me now?
Oh, yeah. You've been putting in a lot of work already. You said.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You've been
Yeah,
putting in a lot of
it's
work
so good. It
already.
like lags and then it
Yeah.
like catches up real fast. No, so
Okay.
I'm getting custom maps made. We're going to have a custom BR map and a custom standardized map for the side events, the BRs and the super sealed. I'm going to have custom cases made, donated to the event. And I'm going to increase the pricing significantly from last year. I'm going to be working on getting some knickknacks like custom dice and custom pogs and uh, all kinds of stuff for the event. So if you come to the event, you are not walking away empty-handed. You're coming away with something, no matter what you do. And I'm providing food both days. We're looking at getting food trucks this time, so that you have your choice of items to eat. So it's going to be a great time, and I'm super excited to have you specifically there to help me out. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you for asking me. I'm very grateful to be asked and to be able to be a part of it.
So do you pay attention to a lot of the podcasts, like the Generation Clicks and Dal H?
So, like outside of HeroClix, I would not choose to listen to a podcast. I'm not much of a podcast type of person. As I am trying to get more and more involved in the community, I found part of that involves listening to podcasts. And so I've been trying harder and harder to listen to more and more of the podcasts. I am not perfect at it by any means. I absolutely, whenever they put out a written post, always read them 100% of the time. And whenever they ask for ideas to talk about on their podcasts, I will always comment as often as I can on as many of them as I can. Um, but I am not listening to 100% of them. No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, I was wondering if you know about. There's a few content creators that have alter egos in the community. I have Westpool.
Yeah.
Miles Kane has Aqua Miles.
Yes.
Roy Redmond has Reb Gorn.
Yes.
What would be your alter ego?
Uh, I mean, my license plate is Dr. Pun, so if I could choose that, the maniacal supervillain Dr. Pun, who speaks exclusively in jokes, in dad jokes.
Good. We'll get along just fine because I have a T-shirt and a mug about being the king of fluent in dad jokes or something like that. My kids hate
Okay.
it. So, are you Team Aqua Miles or Team Westpool?
Westpool.
All right.
I mean, I was on a podcast with talking with Westpool sooner than I was with Aqua Miles, so
Well, I just talked to him today. We're
um
working on getting him on the show. It should be interesting.
okay.
All right. Well, this is going to be the longest episode I've done. I'm super excited to have you here. That has been the Clicks Questionnaire. You are now fully known by the HeroClix community. They are inside your head, a part of you. You're part of them. How does it feel?
It feels good, and I'm grateful that I was able to allow that to happen. And I'm grateful to you to for you to help make this happen.
Well, thank you so much, Anthony. It's been an absolute delight talking to you. I know there's going to be a lot of listeners or viewers checking this out because like 20 people wrote in to ask you questions. So you're going to be a very popular episode. I'm looking forward to it. Right now, the record is 63 views by Tom Van Hollen. So I'm hoping you crush that with.
And I'm coming for you, Lucas.
Well, Anthony, do you have any final thoughts for the community?
I will say this every time that I'm talking to the community and members of it. If you have feedback on what I can do personally to improve, to be a better member of the community, to do a better job when I am judging, or any other way in which I'm engaging with the community, please give me that feedback. Please help me understand what I can do better and how I can be better for you to create a better and more enjoyable experience and time interacting with this game, and this community. Um, and I mean, yeah, I absolutely love rules questions. That's how I engage and be active with this game and this community. And so please always feel free to ask them to me, people. Um, like a random rules question at 3 a.m. It's not going to wake me up. And if I'm up at 3 a.m., I'm going to be like, yeah, this is fun. This is what I'm up for. I'm all about it. Or I'll see it in the morning when I wake up and then, like, oh, this is a perfect way to start my day. Thank you, person. So yeah, I'm all about stuff like that. Feel free to shoot me messages and questions, or post them on more public Facebook pages. Those are great places too. I try and keep up and see those and interact with them as often as I can as well. But don't be like intimidated or afraid or like worried that you're going to offend me by asking me questions or giving me that feedback that I'm literally asking for. Go for it.
On that, when people ask questions, does it annoy you or bother you when they don't cite the source material that they're asking about? If they're asking about a specific interaction on a trait, do you expect them to quote the trait that they're asking about?
Um, I find it always helpful, and I'm always very grateful and appreciative when they do quote that stuff. I would say as long as they're like thorough and clear in the question, I'm not going to be annoyed if they didn't. But it's kind of one of those things of like the first step to finding your answer is going to be quoting those things. And if you don't do it, I'm going to have to do it because that's how we're going to get to your answer. And sometimes that alone gives them the answer. And then that's always the simplest. The questions I would say I get annoyed by are when it's like, hey Anthony, does this work? And it's like, I need way more of a question than does this work? And it's just such a vague question that it's like I don't even understand what you're asking yet. Or it's like the question is like, hey, so I looked at the spot and I'm just not sure. Can you explain it? And it's like there's a lot of text on that. Can we narrow it down to which
Right.
is the part we want? I'm just guessing here until you narrow it down with me. So just overly vague questions that if I answer, like make an attempt to answer, I'm just not even answering the question that was being asked, or the ones that like annoy me of like the room for improvement. Um, Otherwise, as long as you're specific, if I need to, I'll be the one who quotes it. But now the answer is going to take a little bit longer because it's got to wait until I can go look that up. But if you already quoted it for me, the answer is going to be way faster for me to give.
Yeah, I ask a lot of questions to Miles and PJ and Ryan Redmond sometimes, and almost 95% of the time, I already know the answer, but I'm hoping that I'm wrong because I want the interaction to do something different.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I already know the answer to this, but I want to be wrong. So tell me I'm wrong. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Anthony. It's been awesome talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you at future events. And I'm super excited to work with you at Red, White, and Clicks in November.
Thank you. I'm excited for that too.
All right. This has been Talking Clicks. Westpool signing off. And as always, keep on clicksing.